We are rebuilding a Tomos Streetmate, and we've got our parts back from the Powdercoater. But we have a big problem, which needs to be fixed before we can start assembling the parts.
And that problem is that there is powder coat residue inside of threads, holes and other fittings that we have to use and that are important for these parts to work.
Because some parts rely on sliding or rotating on a tight fitment, and the powder coat prevents that from happening. We don't know yet how many parts have powder coat in places where it shouldn't be, but if we don't remove it, parts just won't work properly.
Overall, I'm really happy with the quality of this powder coat because some brackets turn out way stronger after the powder coat compared to before. And I'll show you some before and afters of some of these parts, such as this one, so take a look. Powder coat makes such a difference. The powder coater did a really great job, so I'll put it down in the description to their website or to their page, because yeah, I'm really happy with the quality, but some threads have some powder coat in them, and I know that's common, but this is the biggest problem of them all. The bearings are still in the rims. These should have been removed because of the heat of the oven.
And the reason why the bearing should have been removed because of the heat is because of thermal expansion. When the metal is heated, it wants to expand. With the bearing and the rim being a different material, the rim would expand more than the bearing, meaning the bearing would have come out of the rim. But in this instance, that didn't happen, meaning we have to remove it right now with a chance of damaging our powder coated rims, which is definitely not what we want.
Alright, so we've gathered everything we need to get this done. Except for one thing that we really need, because otherwise everything we do now will just result in rusted parts. But I will show you that later. But first, for the threads, we have some machine tabs and a crank so we can get those threads cleaned. We can use a drill for that as well, but we'll use the drill in this for this instance with some steel wire brushes. This is brass, so it won't damage the parts. It will remove powder coat, so we have to be careful with that. We're gonna use these on the fittings such as this one, so we just want to use it right there, but we don't want to touch the other powder coat. Otherwise, we will remove that as well. We have some cone drills. We're gonna use that to clean up some edges of the holes. We have screwdrivers. And we're gonna use these for the bearings, because I already know this bearing is stuck in there really well. It won't even turn anymore. Normally you use something like a bearing removal set, but right now we're gonna use a screwdriver and hammers, because I know it's stuck in there. We're gonna use this, we're gonna fix the parts, and let's get that done. Let's go. Alright, so you won't believe this, but miracles still exist in this world, and I've actually been using the proper method this time of removing the bearing with the bearing removal tool. So the problem with that is that these removal tools, you use them to clamp behind the bearing, but this is too not sharp enough, so it won't actually bite behind the bearing because we don't have the room here, and I'll show you why in a second. But we can actually remove the bearing like this. So normally that doesn't really happen, but this time it actually works. So that's pretty sick, and it's better for the powder coat because when I use these wooden blocks it doesn't damage the powder coat. As you can see, we can now just get rid of the bearing, and this is the cylinder I'm talking about, and apparently I just grabbed in the cylinder instead of behind the bearing, so that's why I got out. If it works, it works, and now we can just use a screwdriver or some other cylinder thing to just tap it out.
And that's exactly what we did on the other side and on the other rim. Since our bearing removal tool or bearing puller has sloped edges, it wants to compress itself inward, making it slip out underneath the bearing. With a better bearing puller you won't have this problem, but since ours has a cylinder of almost the same size underneath it, the removal tool only has a tiny edge to lock itself behind. And that's the reason why we normally use a hammer and a flathead screwdriver to remove the bearing instead of proper tools. And if you like this type of content, now is the perfect time to subscribe so you won't miss the next video of this rebuild and future rebuilds. And since the bearings are removed now, let's get back to it.
So we have removed all the bearings and the cylinders from the rims, and we tapped all the holes that we had to in the powder coated parts. So now it's time to fit the new bearings, and I would definitely recommend putting these in the freezer the night before or for a few hours before mounting them. I would definitely recommend using a fitting tool as well, because you don't want to damage your fresh bearings and hit them on the wrong side. So you want to make sure you hit them on the outside metal part. We ran into a small problem. The surface for the brake disc is almost as clean as it could be, but on the sprocket side you can see there is powder coat on the sprocket surface, which definitely needs to be removed, because otherwise the sprocket is unbalanced and isn't using the full surface to mount to. So that's a problem we need to fix. But let's first mount these bearings, and after that we will fix that problem. We've installed the bearings and resurfaced the face for the sprocket, and for the disc brake I as well did this one. And yeah, the bearings are mega smooth. But as I said at the start of this video, while gathering all the tools we needed to do the threads, the holes, the fittings, there's one thing we need to do so these parts don't rust, as well as all the other parts, and that is clear coat. We need to clear coat all the parts we have threaded and cleaned the holes from, because if there's no powder coat and there's bare metal, there's no protection against rust.
And the whole reason why we are doing a rebuild is to make the bike brand new without rusted parts, unlike what it was before. So to prevent any rust from developing in the newly threaded holes, we clean the parts and spray a layer of varnish or clear coat on it. After this, the bare metal has a protective layer and moisture won't stay on top of the bare metal and won't create rust. Therefore, the bike will maintain a pristine condition and the powder coat will look good for years. So to summarize what we've done so far, we've disassembled the Streetmate, we've ordered a few new parts which have already come in, all the metal parts have been sandblasted and powder coated, and we just did some post-process work to make the powder coated parts ready for assembly. So what's the next step, you might ask?
So with everything that we've done today, we've come a lot closer to rebuilding the Streetmate. And I've ordered some parts from Tomos shop, which have come in, but it's definitely not everything that we need. So as parts are coming in bit by bit, we're going to rebuild the Streetmate, and I'm going to show you as much as possible and explain what I'm doing as much as possible as well, so you guys can build your own Tomos at home. So if you like bikes and other vehicles being rebuilt, repaired and modified and want to learn how to do it yourself, make sure to subscribe to this channel, because we've already done around 10 projects of Tomos on Instagram. And yeah, this project is just next level. So make sure to subscribe, leave a like if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. And that's the problem.